We're back. We're back. Mostly Ballin is back. Have I mentioned that we're back? The summer hiatus, the quiet, no news summer is over. We're back. We're back with a vengeance. We're back.
Go.
We're like magpies in the sense of that we have paired with British basketball for life. We're lifers. If we were in the yard and someone come up to us and said, "What are you in for?" we would say life, and then they'd say why, and we'd be like, "For watching too much British basketball. Not blood in, not blood out. We're not a gang. We're not like into any of that sort of stuff." We're back. As I mentioned, that we're back. We're back. It's been a quiet summer. Not a lot's happened. I'm very excited to be back. I don't know if anyone else is excited to be back. And the
Very
Destiny's
much.
Child of British Basketball podcast is here.
Woohoo!
I
Let's
don't
go.
think I don't think I can keep this tempo up for the entire podcast. I might have a coronary. Um,
You should. You should. It's good. It's good.
it's lovely to be back. It's lovely to be recording podcasts and chatting British basketball. This episode is going to be slightly different to how we normally do things because obviously all hell's broke loose within top flight men's British basketball. Don't even know how you'd call it now, but we'll cover that in a minute. If you don't know who we are, I'm Egg, the notorious Egg. I'm joined by my two very good friends, Ben. Ben, you're right, mate.
I'm doing good. Thanks. It's good to be back. Haven't
Good.
missed you too much, but just enough.
We speak pretty much every day. If you haven't noticed as well, behind Ben, he has all of the t-shirts from the Knicks finals and everything as well. There's very
Yeah.
rarely do me and Eli give Ben any compliments, but that is actually quite sick and
This
very
is gonna.
jealous.
This is my new feature wall now. This is where podcast will take place.
Yeah,
So
I have
yeah.
to sit in the corner of the room because there's a doorway there and it doesn't look very good. Also, we're joined by Eli. You right, Eli, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's great to be back.
Good. I suppose we'll start with some news. Not that news. Also, we haven't got to do 777 news anymore, which is actually quite nice.
Hey, there we go.
Hey.
We've got rid of 777 sort of. Anyway, news. Ben, you have been keeping track of all of the news. So something to do with Reebok.
Yeah. I think anyone who's been in love with British basketball has been keeping an eye over the summer with what's going on because it's been quiet, been quiet, it's been quiet, and then suddenly everything's happening. Um, this morning, we'll touch on other things after, but this morning, the latest thing to come out is that Reebok will be the kit sponsor um in a multi-year deal for the Super League basketball. So they will be providing every team's kits. Um, they'll also be providing things like sneakers, which hasn't quite been confirmed, but I believe is just for like advertisement and sort of like awareness, not necessarily a player tied to a shoe deal where they have to wear them on game day. Um, but that's all still to be 100% confirmed. And things like travel bags, um, any sort of traveling gear, training gear, um, would all come from Reebok, is what I've read. Um, and fans are going to benefit from it too with Reebok merchants and things like that. So it's exciting to see that come through. I saw the post and then I saw it deleted and I was like, ah, okay. And then it came out again. So it is official. Reebok is the kit sponsor, kit supplier for the start of the SLB reign and going forward.
I'm
I
hoping
really
that
hope they release.
they're going on.
I really hope they release some like Reebok classics in Knicks colors.
That would be good. That would be. They have. So I was reading that they took a break from basketball for a while, but they've been coming back onto the scene, um, and want the league to be part of that. So there's some big names as well with like the likes of Shaq, being a president or something in some form. So um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that in terms of them being kit supplier, they're going to be a lot faster than Kappa. Kappa have been notoriously slow when it comes to bringing out um teams kits and official gear. So fingers crossed Reebok do a better job. I don't think they can do much worse. Kappa weren't exactly the best. But yeah, and it's also interesting to kind of see someone other than Kappa being the official kit sponsor because, for the time that I've been watching British basketball, that's all I've seen.
Yeah.
So, something new again. So I'm interested for that and excited for it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Reebok strike me as well as being the sort of company that would be on board with chucking out retro merch as well for teams and stuff, which I think is kind of was one of the really popular things going over the last few years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
retro games did
Personally,
like really well. I didn't really do like any statistics on like viewership, but I know that social media wise, like all the fans loved it, and
It was brilliant.
fans from like who may not even been like supporting the four clubs that got the retro series, were like, oh, it's really cool to see that. I remember I think Chester Jets were like voted like the coolest kit or something. I don't remember, but like you know, I
Yeah,
think
no,
it's I think that stuff's really cool, and they should try and bring that back again this year.
I think as well, just going off that sort of retro look and talking about the series, the Manchester kit, um, with the like the logo and the stripes was, other than the Jets jersey, I think that would have to come up as my favorite. Um, and like you said, like I think if they can bring something in like that, especially with their history of basketball, I think it'd just be brilliant, and it adds something to the game, it adds something to the league, and just make us different, and yeah, the kits are probably one of my favorite parts of a new season, so I'm excited to see.
I
Um,
think an issue with the retro, obviously, I don't have an issue with it happening because it's really cool. But the problem is, it was retro with the now deceased. I don't know really what you say when a business goes out of business. I'll say deceased. Um, the deceased British Basketball League. So now it's retro, retro Super League. But they've not even been alive for like 2 months, so that's what I'm confused about. If that would be a good thing to bring back.
I think we need to leave retro kits for a little while before they start doing those sorts of things. I think we got there's bigger fish to fry. Two things I would say: hockey kits and sponsor heavily my football team, Bolton Wanderers. So more than happy with this. If they could start making Bolton Wanderers kits again and rename the stadium after the current deal is done, that'd be great. And secondly, away from the SBL, if Ross, you're watching this, orange away kits, please bring back that orange away kit for the Raiders at some point. They
Why?
was iconic. It's part of my childhood.
It was my favorite season at Raiders 2018-19 when those kits were out, purely because we knocked London out. Dante was playing at an MVP level. Um, we had the Hitman, we had Uno, we had Josh Wiltshire, we had Deuce in his first season at Plymouth. Um, but those orange kits were only distinct for me and my family because they were absolutely horrifically ugly.
But it's nostalgic. Everything you've just named, like ties to that time and that period of our history. So that's the only reason I want them brought back
To
because
the highlighter
whenever
orange.
I think yeah, whenever I think about our away kits from my time following the Raiders, it's always that orange one, and I don't know why. Because when I used to watch, I'd be like, "This is like not even." I'm not really like emotionally attached to it. Maybe it's because I'm getting old, or maybe it's because Raiders have come back and I'm kind of on that nostalgic path. I don't know, but yeah, if anyone else is watching as well, let us know what your favorite kit from your team is or kits throughout the time. I'm also wearing a Utah Jazz like t-shirt as well. They've always got the
I've got
best
I've
jerseys
got
in.
my Bulls hoodie on.
I have
Yeah, but
nothing
Bulls just
basketball related on, but this says Miami. Does it count as the Heat?
yeah, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah,
Sweet.
this does
Or
all, this does also mean that I will be going out and getting Reebok clothes and shoes and whatever with money that I don't have. But yeah, yeah, it's got to happen.
if they bring out a really horrific Knicks kit, then obviously that bet no longer works. Also, now that unfortunately the BBL doesn't exist anymore, our potato bet no longer applies because there's no All Star game within the British Basketball League. So me and Eli,
I win.
loophole. Anyway, right, we're gonna play one little game before we get into some serious business. Over the summer, I've noticed there's a trend developing. Now, what I want everyone to do, and my two co-hosts, to take a minute, pick an NBL D1 team at random. Don't tell me what it is. Think about it. Keep that name in your head. And repeat after me. They would be good in the top flight.
They would be good
They
in the
would be
top
good in
flight.
the top flight.
They would be good in the top flight. That's what I've had to put up with all summer. And at one point, I did think about putting this pen up my nose and smashing my head against the desk.
Whoa. Whoa.
Ouch.
Monetization.
Figuratively, obviously, not actually, wouldn't condone that. But like, I did, like, it was getting to the point where I was ripping my hair out. Like,
Oh,
don't.
This
Right.
has
Anyway,
been
so
it's been discussed for
we're now going to
8
talk about something. We're now going to talk about something genuinely bad. As we've gone on a random tangent. When I said we're back, we're still with the random tangents. This summer has potentially been one of the most turbulent, traumatic, and I think potentially saddest in our lifetime anyway. I know there's been problems in the past with the British Basketball League, but we're a different generation to some other people. Not disrespect to people that are older than us, but we can only talk about lived experiences. For British basketball, people have lost their jobs, which is that's the main point we should be taking from this. People like ordinary people that like us on the pod, people that are listening to this, lost their jobs.
yeah.
People have lost their community, their avenue of going to games, specifically down here. People have lost their passion. There's people now are listening to the I don't know if it's still called Below the Rim, but the Pabs and Ads podcast, where it was just two guys just talking about ball that have followed the BBL for longer than anyone on this podcast has been alive, and how kind of disenfranchised they are now with top flight basketball. And I fully get it. I get why the two of them are. And they've done more than enough for British hoops. And if we, in any way, shape, or form, kind of do a tenth of what they've done, then I would be incredibly proud. But it's not been fun. As someone who didn't watch the BBL last season a great deal, it's not been fun as a bystander. It's just been cack. And I think that we need to kind of hopefully kind of all rally together, whether it's Knicks, Raiders, people in the SBL, people in the NBL, whether it's like people down here, me and Eli, whether you're on the green side or you're a Pats fan, kind of just look out for each other and kind of we need to kind of unite and make sure that as much as possible that this doesn't happen again. Probably easier said than done. I don't know what your thoughts are, Ben. Obviously, you kind of knew that the Knicks was still going to be here this season. Kind of what was it like for you guys on that side of the fence?
I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously it all unfolded and we followed it all and we saw things literally collapse in front of our eyes. And it brought a lot of uncertainty. And as a deflated feeling, a feeling of just no motivation for it. I never fell out of love with the game, but it was like, okay, what's going? And again, as you said, I knew the Knicks would be okay, as probably a lot of clubs knew that they would also be okay. But a club is only okay to a certain extent. But if you don't have a league to play in, then you not much more. So it was worrying. And I was speaking to some friends the other day, and we've all agreed it's probably been the longest off season ever, or it's felt like the longest off season with no news because with no league and no license, you can't get players over because you can't have visas. So it's this massive knock-on effect. And it's just like, okay, when are things going to start looking good? Then you get a name of a league. Okay, great, we've got something. Players start getting announced. Okay, we can be excited. I'm loving what the Knicks have done with their squad. Today we saw the sponsor for the kits. Okay, I'm looking forward to the kits now. But it has been a really weird off season. The Olympics kept me going. To have something to focus on or switch to. But I'm happy we're back, and I really hope it works out. And as I said, that we can all come together and really make this an exciting new era. And it's come with some cost. We've seen some teams go. We've seen players lose their jobs. We've seen members of staff that give their all lose their jobs. But we can only look forward now. And I am excited to see how a new shape squad league will look with the teams we've got. So yeah, no, I'm excited, but it's been a very mixed emotion summer.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. What's your thoughts, kind of, Eli? I suppose you're kind of similar to me, but you kind of do watch what was the BBL, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part was kind of like just, I mean, it's saddening. I mean, you think of the amount of people that have lost their jobs. I mean, that's the first thing. I mean, being fired unexpectedly, and it just like that. I mean, that's just wild. Because I mean, job market is pretty difficult nowadays. Um, you know, I mean, the field that the British basketball was, I mean, was quite a tight one. If it's just basketball, I mean, in this country. Um, Another thing I kind of was sad about was kind of that's where basketball started for me.
Mm.
Um, like fully. I mean, it started with kind of Steph Curry. But I'd really only watch him. I didn't watch the NBA. Then it was obviously Plymouth Raiders when they were in the BBL, and that's what sparked my passion for basketball. So that's like the reason I played, I guess you would say. I kind of just played for fun, but it was a reason why I decided I wanted to start playing basketball.
Yeah.
So I guess a little bit, kind of my childhood was gone like that as well.
Mhm.
But kind of what just shocks me, um, I mean, I don't know if anyone else thought on this, so let me know if you guys do. Um, but the league managed to survive a global pandemic, um, and play a whole season. I'm not talking about the 1920, the one that was cancelled, but the 2020-2021 season, managed to play
Yeah.
through that. A few games cancelled. Obviously, COVID was still rife, so there were bound to be cancellations. But it wasn't getting cancelled left, right, and centre. But I mean, we managed to get a cup final, a trophy final, and a playoff final, and league champions, and get pretty good exposure in the league while signing a Sky Sports deal. Um, I mean, watching that happen, I think that was kind of when I was kind of in my like watching it prime. I think like that was like when I watched it the most. I was constantly eating, breathing British Basketball League. Um, Seeing that was inspirational because it's like, how is this league that a very, very, very small percentage of people know about surviving through
Mhm.
this, where there's like loads of businesses that people do know that are struggling to survive. And I mean, the world seems like it's going to fall apart, but this league is staying alive. Fast forward 2, 3 seasons later, I don't know exactly, and the league is just shaking, falling apart every single minute of every single day. I mean, it's just like it's kind of just a bit annoying in a way because it's like we managed to stay through what was arguably the hardest stage anything has ever gone through,
Yeah.
in terms of COVID and the restrictions that brought and everything along with that. But we can't survive when COVID has now become just like a cold. Um, and we're not having to wear masks and social distance and always think about what we do in this situation because of COVID.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was kind of just the whole sad part about it. And another problem was as the league grew, it died in a way. We saw, I remember I commented on the league, I said the social medias and like the social media has been phenomenal for the past 2 years. I mean, the exposure and like the covering of the sport, phenomenal. I mean, like they did a great job. Highlight reels like every second, every single day. Um, Getting fans to vote for the player of the month and the coach of the month. That was
Yeah.
great. Loved that last season. Um, Top flight teams like the Knicks, like the Eagles, were, exposing their brand and, it just seemed like everything was growing. But, down below, you knew everything was falling apart at the base. I mean, you can keep climbing, but that's eventually going to catch up and then everything's going to fall apart. And it did. Um, so, I think it was kind of a go big and go home situation, which was kind of disappointing. It was also disappointing because the league had obviously had loads of new deals, i.e. the Biffa deal that literally I think lasted a month. Um,
Yeah.
that seemed like an exciting prospect. I know it was a bin company, but it was like renewable. Maybe it was something economical or environmental. I don't really know what they're talking about when they talk about renewable, but um, it was exciting nonetheless. And we just come off the back of a dramatic playoff final, and the trophy final with the Knicks winning it, and teams actually like Surrey and Cheshire kind of showing growth. I mean, obviously some more than others, but there was growth everywhere. Um, so we were teed up for a fantastic 24-25 BBL season. And I
Yeah.
know for a fact I was excited for it because, I was just like, if top flight basketball stays in Britain, unfortunately it hasn't. Well, British Basketball League stays in
Mhm.
in business, which it
Yeah.
has. I was like, are we going to see the return of some of these great players? Are we going to see better players come in, bigger names from the NBA?
Yeah.
LaQuincy Rideau, is he going to come back? Shout out to him. Still, like, my number one guy. We're going to see guys like Gino Crandall maybe return. I mean, he's a star point guard. Are we going to see, Dirk Williams come back? Who are we going to see return? And what's going to happen in terms of like the league? Is the All-Star game going to get better? There were a lot of things that kind of were kind of down here that could
Mhm.
have improved so much had we had another season. I mean,
Absolutely.
the league managed to grow in that last season
Yeah.
phenomenally.
Yeah.
And now obviously that's just all gone to waste, and we're kind of stripped back to square one. Um, Everything that was kind of what I know we'll get onto this, but I was gonna say everything that was kind of worked on previously was kind of brought back, i.e. the cup, the league format, three trophies and a league championship, no All-Star game, which I mean I'm not really sure anyone's complaining about because it was pretty bad. Um, but it's not the fact that there's the All-Star game, it's the fact that the whole prospect that was worked on has now kind of just been thrown in the garbage. And I mean, I know for a fact the cup was all over the place for like the past, what, 5 years. It went from group stages to the bottom four teams played to play the top six. Then it went back to just random draw and bracket. And then it just got cut completely. And it was like, can you please make a decision on what you're going to do with this competition? Because I can't keep telling people this is how it works this season. And then they've gone and cut it entirely. I do think the format this last season worked really well and would have worked really well continuing into the future. But I mean, none of that matters now. None of like really what I've said about the British Basketball League matters anymore because it's gone.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the biggest thing to focus on is the fact that people have lost jobs. Um, Loads of people for loads of clubs who had jobs in those clubs as well, particularly in Plymouth, were very worried for a very long
Mm.
time, I guess. Loads of them tweeting out, oh, it's time to look for a new job. Um, and like I've said, that's not easy. It's scary out there. The world is a scary place when you get to a certain time in the world. I mean, obviously I'm young, but still quite a scary place.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. Yeah.
Cheers, Eli.
and and you know, it's just yeah, I mean, it was just saddening, really, and also really annoying. I know for a fact, I'm not scared to admit it, that I fell out of love with the sport. Um, I constantly spoke to my dad, and I was like, I've just given up with British basketball because it's just a joke at this point. The fact that everything falls apart so easily, and people are losing jobs just like this, and it's just like I don't want to be watching it. Is if that's what the case is. So
Yeah.
I kind of watched a lot more football. Um, Kind of went back to just kind of waiting to see what happened instead of kind of following closely.
Mm.
Um,
It's
Basketball I was kind of disillusioned with for a while, but it's just annoying and saddening for a mix of reasons. People losing their jobs, the fact that that's a league that I held close to my heart for so many years. But part of me knew it was inevitable. So I'm kind of excited to see what the Super League basketball is going to bring, even though, like I said, it's kind of brought back everything that the British Basketball League got rid of. So yeah, we'll have to see though.
it's sad to think that, and it's always the way, but the decisions that were made above the clubs kind of has essentially killed the league. Having an owner, 45% or whatever stake it was within the league, and owning a club and ploughing millions in, and everything falling apart, kind of was a recipe for disaster. But I suppose you can't change what's happened, and it's hopefully people do find jobs, and there are still 9 clubs as at the minute.
Yeah.
If the league has to take 3 steps back to eventually take 4 steps forward within the next 10, 15, 20 odd years, then that's kind of, you learn from what happened, and that mold you as a person, and that mold you as fans and clubs and people and everything in the community. So I think that's enough on the BBL. There are a lot more people, far more eloquent and far more in the know than us 3. Please do take into consideration the age of the people on the podcast and our viewpoints, and kind of what we take from British basketball and everything may be different to, say, the podcasts you will hear from, like Sunday Night Breakdown or the Below the Rim guys, who are a slightly different generation to us. So kind of, we're all hurting. As a fan who didn't watch BBL, it's traumatic to see something just completely disintegrate and not know what's going to happen, because it would affect the NBL, which obviously I love. There's an ecosystem, everyone's attached. That's that. We should now move on to brighter things. Top Flight Men's British Basketball is back, as we all know. Is now the Super League. Is it Super League Basketball? I keep wanting to say SBL. Is it Super Basketball League?
Super
SLB.
League Basketball.
Super League Basketball. I keep getting the name wrong. I'm just going to call it Super League.
Super Basketball League is in Canada.
We're just going to call it Super League. So the Super League has now been formed. There are 9 clubs in it.
Yeah.
At the time of recording, Giants, there is a Manchester franchise. It's not going to be the Giants name. It's going to be a different name. We don't really know what's going to happen with that. We know there's going to be a team in Manchester, which is great. Obviously, a previous life, this podcast was on under a different name. A friend of ours is a Giants fan. Used to go to basketball in Manchester, so it's great that they kind of, that community in that area still has top flight basketball. We've covered the fact that down here in Devon, we've kind of been robbed of that a little bit twice now. You never know what's going to happen. Hopefully, something does come back in this neck of woods, because we're starved of top flight sport and professional sport here that isn't rugby or football in the southwest. So what I've not actually kind of kept track of it, because I've been quite busy kind of keeping track of my own little world within the NBL. So what's the format? Are we still playing each other 4 times? Are we still what's going on?
Let me just pick up my phone. It fell on the floor. Enjoy the feature wall, and I'll be back in like 3 seconds. Maybe longer.
I would put
this is great podcasting, isn't it? Ben trying to find
I would put elevator music over this, but it probably would get copyrighted. So just
I
imagine
have actually sat on top of my lift, so that could work.
Okay. Have you found your phone for the way it all works?
Yes. So we are still playing 4 games. No, 8, 16. Yeah.
When does the league start? And everyone will know the format. So there's going to be a cup, all the cup, everything that used to be part of the BBL is back before it was all murdered by some Miami gangsters.
Yeah. So we've got the obviously the championship. We've got the playoffs. We've got the trophy, and the cup has made a return. The All-Star game's been dropped, as you said. Probably no one's going to be disappointed by that.
I am. I'm disappointed, because
is that just because you didn't have a chance with the potato?
What can I get potato with now?
The cup.
I'll have to go for the NBL All-Star game, won't I now?
Yeah.
Rebound if you're watching. We're getting a potato in that game next year, my friend.
There will be so many potatoes.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch. So the league is now called the Super League. Everyone's back in it, apart from Patriots, obviously. What are we excited about for the new dawn? What are we kind of happy is now gone. Obviously, there's going to be one thing everyone is going to say they're quite happy with, Todd. Um, as of yet, there hasn't been anything said about streaming either.
No, that's
I know there was a comment made, Ben, from is it GM or owner?
there's a so we've got like a volunteers chat, and someone said what happens with watching games like away games and things, and it was the GM, and I'm not sure what was in that message, that literally just went season ticket, but I'm not sure if that was a misinterpreted text or not, because the league does have a YouTube channel and other ways, so there's there's ways that it can be streamed. I don't think we were saying that it won't be.
There are
Just nothing's been said that it will.
there are two things to take from this. One, I would be gobsmacked if it's not streamed. Two, if you haven't bought a season ticket before and you are able to for your club, and obviously times are difficult. If you've ever been unsure about doing it, now's the time to buy one and to support your team.
Yeah.
Or buy merch, go to games, show the love. Even if you're not a top flight, even if you're a fan of a club that's not the top flight, go do that as well. Go follow basketball all levels because it's like I said, it's an ecosystem. The clubs need us more than ever.
Yeah.
Me and Eli are going to be shooting up to Bristol to see Hurricanes, and we might go to a Flyers game. I'm going to try and get to some of the 89ers away games because I've adopted the 89ers currently as my
That's
team.
something people might not know. The 89ers are the former Scorchers.
I think lots of people will already know that.
Yeah.
Mainly because I had a little schoolgirl moment and just went, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I was born in 1989. Okay, so the format, so everything's kind of cool. Is there anything you wish that they would bring back from before? So I would kind of like the old com teams back from like fan com teams, guys who are connected to their clubs. I really enjoyed those comms. I really liked having Pabs on for the Patriots. I really liked having the guys up in Scotland. I like the guys in Manchester as well. I really like the guys that knew about their team and their clubs, and you could kind of tell the passion as well.
That's what I was going to say. It felt more connected, like they kind of
Yeah.
knew what
Yeah.
was what was associated. Like I'm not saying that the guys that were commentating last season didn't know what they were doing because they were good, but like a more personal connection to the club felt really nice. It added a nice little touch.
Yeah.
And fans kind of like knowing who they are a little bit, being like, that's kind of cool. And it kind of adds a more personal connection, makes you feel more intimate with the club, you know what I mean?
But especially when you've got like coaches that aren't playing on a day or that weekend or whatever, joining the commentary team, or you've got players who aren't needed that weekend. So I know like Jordan Taylor featured a few times on comms. Rob from Riders was a regular on comms. It just had something completely different.
I forgot how much I love having Rob on comms, how good he was.
I am the
It is
exact same. I
amazing.
loved him.
And
Yeah.
and actually a really underrated one was Josh Steele as well, because he was actually also really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like diss him there, but I was really surprised at how good he was on comms as well. So yeah. People yeah.
Back in like 2017 when the highest premium granted streaming wise to the British Basketball League was a game a week on BBC Sport and it would be Dan and he'd have a guest commentator. And I remember he had the Seven Oaks Suns coach come in one time. He had who did he have? It was mainly Ant Rao, obviously, but he also had when it was Rob, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to be able to watch because
Yeah.
Rob is just. I remember when Hamid Ali, it was Bristol versus London. I've got memories of this because of Hoopsfix Top 10. Shout out to that series. It's dead now. It used to be. It was like Hamid Ali shot like four threes in a row, one from like the logo, and Rob was just going off. He was like, I won't do it because I'm gonna absolutely butcher the lines, but he was just like exploding and Dan
Yeah.
Raut, you could kind of like hear what he was thinking. He was a bit like, go off, King. And I was a bit like, I was a bit like, wow, this is nuts. And it's always fun to have that because it's like, wow, we got like a view of someone that's actually playing these guys every single week. You know what I mean? So I think that's cool.
I think as well, just to add on to that, as much as I love seeing players and coaches joining the commentary team, we only saw a number of coaches and players doing that. I think maybe add to it. Um, I'm not sure whether if there's anything further behind it that we don't know about. I don't know, but if it's possible, maybe add to it so other coaches, other players from other teams are getting the chance because ultimately they're all in the top flight of basketball in Britain. They all know inside out what they're doing, the knowledge of the game. Um, Ben Thomas had an incredible season with the Knicks last season, pushing. Um, if it weren't for a few games, we would have pushed London completely to the end for top spot. And Eli touched on it before, with everything kind of going back to basics now, that sort of motivation and that sort of what's the word, that sort of drive and momentum, that's the word. It kind of all gone now. I think we if the BBL had survived, we would have gone into this season having picked up where we left off. And I'm not saying we can't do that. I'm expecting it, but um, it just shows what every coach in this league can do. Um, Lloyd Gardner for Surrey is an incredible guy, and he's another name that popped up. So add to it so you can rotate more. Um, it's nice to have familiar faces and get familiar with people, but it adds a personal touch to the league. We've seen how animated Rob is on the sideline. You can picture him behind the TV on comms. Um, that's something I'd love to see more of. Is a wider range and use of players and coaches.
I think if they go back into the arenas, it's kind of is maybe easier to kind of get a guy from Manchester to go do a comms at Knicks or Sheffield or Leicester
Yeah,
to go up to wherever. I also do think actually now I think about it that these guys like Rob, all the guys that were on comms, and everybody who's kind of involved in the league, who's been involved in the league for so long, I think that they're kind of just like us. Like I know we've said this before, but they're just paid fans. Like they're just people like you. You're not going to be involved in British basketball unless you love it.
absolutely.
And I
You
think
do
that's
have to
something we
love the
need to
game.
kind of take into this new season and this new league because it's going to be a bit weird. It's going to be weird for a few years.
Yeah.
But I'm as someone who didn't watch the BBL in the last 2 years, really, I'm really excited to see what this brings. I'm hoping that it kind of there's more cooperation between Basketball England and the top flight league. We shall see.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're excited to see come back? I know that obviously you're you've watched it a lot longer than us. I know you've eat,
I
ate,
mean,
sleep, and
I
breathed
mean,
it.
one thing I always love is like just seeing how the new player. I just want to see the basketball being played. I think mainly that's what
Yeah.
I'm excited for. I think I want to see basketball being played without worrying about a financial problem. I think that's something that in the playoff final last year, I think was really evident when I went up and covered that. Great day out. Shame that the Knicks didn't win. I think they kind of deserved it. Weird that you'd have in London. I really think it should have been in kind of like a neutral ground like Birmingham when their teams were, but
Yeah.
I'm not the one that makes the decisions. But it was kind of still like a bit like, oh, there's a financial problem. Um, I mean, they're selling like t-shirts that I can make for like £45. Like that's pretty crazy. Um,
I've got two from that game that are all like double XL.
yeah,
Um,
it's
you know,
crazy.
yeah,
So I kind of just want to be excited for basketball where there's no financial problem. Just like back when I was a kid, when I was like 9, 10, 11,
yeah.
watching the league for the first time because it kind of feels like we're going back to that. I want to watch it and just be like, wow, there's some good basketball being played. I'm kind of excited to see how the coverage is in terms of media exposure, brand exposure even, and how the media covers that and the streaming because I think last year's streaming quality was very good. Um, I want to see I kind of want to see more like of a family kind of feel to most of the clubs. I felt like the money kind of was that barricade between a few clubs, such as London last season. Um, but mainly over everything, I think just watching some basketball in Britain because I feel like we became so disillusioned with that the second the money factor was brought in and the fact that we could buy all these great players. Like, why not we just see some, talent that sticks with a club that's, maybe not ex-NBA, maybe he's not like scoring 30 points a game, but he's a good player. He's,
Mhm.
he's impacting the game. He loves the fans, he loves the team, he loves playing the game, and he loves playing in the league. Like I think that was what was so important. Um, I think we became so disillusioned at the second that the NBA prospects started coming in. We were like, oh wow, I mean, you know, uh Sam Deck has come in, and now Matt Morgan, and now David Nwaba, like great players, um,
Mhm.
definitely helped out in Europe, but like that meant so many players were getting overlooked. I mean, one that was like just overlooked entirely was TJ Atwood. Shout out to him, such a cool guy. I mean, just so down to earth, and I'm really glad that we're going to be able to see TJ play for the Knicks now. I think that's a really great move. I'm not sure why the league has let that happen because now the Knicks are going to be tearing it up. Um, but
You know it, boy.
yeah,
Well,
I'm really
we should move
excited.
on. We should move on to player signings at a later episode.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Um, he was, incredibly looked here. I mean, I think it was like 20 points a game or something. I have the statistics somewhere in my phone. Um, and it was just like, wow, I mean, the reason he's being overlooked is because there's better teams doing bigger things.
Yeah.
Um, Another player who was kind of overlooked was Nedas. Shout out to him. He was a young guy that was kind of, growing, and I'm really glad that we get to see him at the Surrey 89ers. I think he's going to be exciting. Shout out to him as again. I mean, great guy as well. So, I'm just kind of excited to see the basketball being played without the financial and not thinking about, oh, there's like all these good players that we can buy in, and like,
Yeah.
oh, Cheshire's got this guy that's really good, and Surrey have this guy, and Bristol have this guy, like have the standouts. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
think.
yeah.
Sorry.
We can get back to just being sports fans and not having to worry about what's going on in the
Yeah.
boardroom. And I kind of hope that the new league puts fans first and puts games on, not like 8:30 on a Saturday for an audience that is non-existent potentially in America. Um,
I think as well, it'll probably obviously everything that went on during the summer was horrible. It was sad to see. Um, and a lot of guys still don't know where their future is. I mean, we know London and Manchester are safe, but we've not seen any action come out of them in terms of uh, players coming back. We know London have lost a lot of guys, which was bound to happen with what happened. Um, but I think with how the new league has now come about, um, starting from scratch, I think it leaves room for um, anything to happen really. And I know we said that in the form of BBL. But I genuinely believe that this season can be one where anything can happen. Um, and this isn't anything against London or any no hate, no nothing. But because of what's happened to them, because they've lost so many guys, because the league is just around the corner and we've not heard anything, we're not going to see the same elite team that we have seen for the last however many years. So it just I'm not saying it comes down to one team, but at the same time, it kind of we'll now see probably a different side. Um, we'll probably go into it another time, but there's salary caps and things that have come in, which will allow for more of an even playing ground. Um, so just as Eli said, for basketball to be back, for literally us to go, anything can happen, um, is exciting. And there's definitely been more of a buzz in recent weeks, especially for myself, when I've not shut up about it. So I am excited, and yeah, it's going to be good. Um, I've been on a bit of a ramble there. I had a point in my head, not sure if it came out or not, but
we're quite happy just to let you go, Ben, mate. So that does kind of, you have kind of led me into my next, not rant, point. Kind of going back to me sticking the pen up my nose, and we won't go into that again. That obviously was a joke. I cannot stress that enough. People need to understand the landscape below the Super League hasn't changed. And for someone who is incredible, has a lot of love for the NBL and NBL D1, to just pick a team out of thin air and say they would be good in the Super League is incredibly frustrating for people. Like, maybe it might just be me, but it is incredibly because these teams and clubs are not set up to move up.
No.
Yeah, they're going to need support. And unfortunately, the Super League is currently in the weaker position. And I mean that with all due respect. If I'm an NBL team currently in D1, and I've said this on Discords and in group chats, this is not anything I've not said publicly. If I'm an NBL D1 team and I'm looking at what has happened, am I really going to want to move up just yet? If I could, theoretically, or am I quite happy to stay in NBL and kind of nice and secure, looked after by governing body, helped, community wise, everything's kind of there, or I could risk it and come to the Super League. I think that for the time being, people need to understand that NBL is in a very different world, and unfortunately, a very secure, and I don't want to say better, but is it a better prospect to stay in NBL D1 currently or within the NBL setup than it maybe is to risk moving up? Within the women's game, very different. If there's a team in D1 women and they want to move up to the top flight women's league, crack on, because I think that is a very different proposition currently.
Yeah.
For a team like, for example, Hemel, just pick a team out thin air. If Hemel had the facilities to move up currently, would they be better off moving up and risking everything? And in 5 years' time, everything falls apart. Hopefully, it doesn't. But if it does, where do they see them? Where are they going to be then? If I was owner of a D1 team and the Super League said, "Could you move up?" The first thing I would be doing would be picking the phone to Basketball England and saying, "Where do I stand with returning?" Because that's the world we now live in. In the short term, no team in NBL D1 is in any way able to move up, facility wise, finances, players, everything really. They haven't got. They wouldn't have the money to put a roster on the floor that could compete. They haven't got the money to simply get to games. In NBL, they play each other once home, once away. If you're Hemel, back to Hemel again, they've got one journey to Newcastle, one journey to Bradford, and that's kind of their two longest trips. One journey to Bristol, couple trips to the Midlands. Fans Abbey Dozy. If they're in the Super League, they've then got 2 trips to Newcastle, 2 trips to Sheffield, 2 trips to Scotland.
Yeah.
But that adds up.
It does. Yeah.
And facilities wise, apologies, but there's probably maybe only 2 teams in NBL who have the facilities to move up. Essex, who have kind of cut a lot of their guys in the summer. There's been a little bit of uncertainty. We've had people message us from Essex fans asking, do we know anything? And I've reached out to people I know in contacts. And it's kind of just radio silence on the Essex front. So we don't really know what's happening with Essex. They put a roster together and they're going to be in D1, but they're probably not going to be in the to move up. And Worcester. And Worcester withdrew because they couldn't financially stay in the top flight. So at the minute,
Worcester
there is no.
Worcester would probably be the best option because I
They
remember
would, yeah.
they were voted best arena.
Yeah.
I think
so in the short term, in the next 12 months, that the landscape may change. But as we're currently sat here right now, before the season starts in both leagues, nobody in NBL, and I mean this from hand on heart, is able to move up. Now, I'm not saying that because I don't want teams to move up. I'm not saying I don't want teams in the NBL to move up because of my own self-interest. Nothing would bring me more joy than seeing an NBL team move up into the top flight and to do what Knicks have done, to do what Flyers have done. If Hoods have got a new owner, they've got someone coming in, fantastic. If they move up and they absolutely storm the Super League, I will be so happy. But at the minute, just for my own sanity, please stop saying it would be good if XYZ NBL team moves up.
Yeah, no,
Just kind of have some understanding of what the situation. There's very few of us who do cover the league. Just talk to us, because it does come across as quite patronizing as well sometimes. And I know people aren't probably meaning it to be patronizing, but it does kind of make us feel that we're just there to serve the top flight. When I don't mean to be rude, but at the minute, the D1 NBL is probably a lot more secure than what has happened previously.
To be fair, that's pretty accurate what you said. I mean, and it's going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but we have literally started from scratch with bringing in the Super League basketball. You know, we've lost a team, which brings us 9 teams. You know, very close to the start of the season. We're only now finding out what the format is, which I'm not sure how long it's been behind the scenes going on, but they just there seems a lot more stability for those NBL teams to stay in the NBL for now. I for one would again with you would love to see a team come up and succeed. For teams that deserve it and can consistently cater for that. It's not something. It's very easy when something is taken over to go, oh, you know, we want to aim for that, and we want to be up there. But you have got to be realistic. So for the Hoods, which is the team that has made the circles now and then, for their new owners to come in and say we want to be part of the SLB, great, fantastic, aim for that.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen the next season. You know, this SLB and the 9 teams that are already in it have got to secure themselves. Have got to find out what they are doing, get used to the new running of the league. And for the team to come up, they've also got to know what they're doing. They've got to find the means to do it. So it is ambitious, and it's a good ambition, you know, to have. But don't put a deadline on it, as in we want to be there next year or the next 2 years. Give it some time, let things settle down. Because you don't want you don't want it to happen and it be a major flop, because then you risk people losing interest or turning, and
lots of people I've spoken to in NBL circles have said the maths needs to add up, and that's always been the phrase that they've used. And currently, the maths doesn't add up. I suppose Eli, as a fan like myself of a former BBL team that's kind of now playing in NBL, what's your kind of thoughts? I don't really know. What's your thoughts if it was Raiders were given the opportunity to come back up? What's your thoughts on all of that? I know there's been rumours that there's potential a Plymouth team could come back or be in D1 as well, so that's obviously touching on that.
First thing that always springs to mind when people talk to me about certain NBL teams moving up was Raiders press conference way back. I think when was it? 2023 in like April. I was invited down to the announcement, and I asked Ross. I think this was my first question. I was like, "What is there? Are you thinking of a pathway back to the British Basketball League?" And the thing that Ross said, and this sticks with me, I think it sticks with Super League basketball as well, is that the 2 leagues in terms of NBL and Super League are on 2 different trajectories. That's a difficult word to say. Say that 3 times fast. So I think that's the first thing I'd say, is that the NBL and the Super League basketball are on 2 different trajectories. Gotta say it slowly. I feel like Super League basketball may not be trying to go for the glory, glitz, and glamour that what was it, the British Basketball League was going for when they were under 777. I feel like maybe it's trying to kind of return to British Basketball League just kind of existing in a way where it's kind of not so glim and glam, with a few teams maybe in Europe. I don't know if that's the goal so far. That's how they kind of grew it the last time. NBL would not really work with that. I feel like the only way the NBL will kind of work if in top flight basketball is if the NBL Division One was the top flight basketball in the UK. And it's something me and my dad and loads of other people have discussed in the British basketball community for like years is if this is falling apart, why don't we use the NBL? I mean, D1, I'm not saying completely take it over. NBL D1 needs to be the top flight basketball league because there are plenty. I mean, we said it at the beginning of the episode. There are plenty of teams that are good enough. I mean, I had Derby Trailblazers in my head. They're my favorite NBL D1 team, purely because they've shown that they can beat top tier teams.
Yeah.
There are plenty of good teams, so why don't we use that as the top flight basketball league? And not in the way that they come in, people like 777 come in and all these investors come in and make it. No, just keep it kind of how it is. Maybe put a bit of money into it, make
Yeah.
it kind of more glitz and glamour, appealing in a way, to the uh outsider, I guess. Someone not like us three who watch it religiously. Well, Egg who watches NBA do wonder religiously. Um um and kind of just, work with the teams that are doing phenomenally well. I mean, Hemel went unbeaten a few years ago, I believe. Please fact check me on that.
Yeah, they've
Derby,
been unbeaten and won all three trophies.
yeah. Derby made the British Basketball League trophy semi-finals. Um, who else has Solent? What was it, like
Yeah.
3, 4 years ago? Made the trophy final, and my lord, did they almost beat Newcastle? If that had happened, I would have gone ballistic because that game was one of the best games I think we've seen in British basketball history. Purely because an NBL team has, gone to the final
Mhm.
and almost won it. I think it was like a 2-point game by the end of it, which was incredibly surprising. Um, so there are plenty of good teams. The model I think is quite simple. And we had loads of talent last year in the from the NBL to the British Basketball League. I mean, the first one, Aaron Rye, made Team of the Year, Player of the Month, clearly the best player on the court in the player final. I don't care what anyone says about Daka or
And the
Morgan
trophy.
or Olaseni.
Yeah.
Rye knew what he was doing. He was about it.
Yeah.
Although Redondo did almost get a triple double, so maybe I have to rethink that. Um, Taylor
It's
Johnson
it's an
when he was
example
with
though, isn't it?
yeah, uh, Taylor Johnson when he was with the Patriots, great shooter,
Yeah.
fantastic player, knew how to attack the rim, and was smart with the ball. There have been guys that have done it before these two. I'm just picking those two because they're standouts.
Yeah.
Uh, Issa Brandon came up from Derby to Plymouth. The first Plymouth season wasn't a standout, but I remember in Glasgow,
Mhm.
he was really good on the defensive end and definitely made an impact. And he was quite annoying to play against. I remember that. And with Plymouth, he was good defensively in his second season. What are you looking at me like that for, Egg?
You've missed one.
Who have I missed?
Luca Kosemi.
Luca Kasemi. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the Duplo, I think we called him because he like blocks a
Oh
lot.
yeah, blocks. Yeah.
I think that's the point, isn't it? That the NBL hopefully there's now more work between Basketball England and the top flight, and that we can kind of see progression within clubs uh,
Yeah.
naturally. I think we could be here all night talking this about. We've been here for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you two are looking forward to the most from the Super League and the season coming up?
So, I mean, like I
In the
said already,
sentence.
you know, um, just watching top flight basketball, I think is the number one thing. I'm also
Yeah.
kind of excited that now with the kind of ambiguity of the Super League and the kind of just like cliffhangers that they constantly keep leading us on and the mystery, um, it's kind of just a bit like you get a little peep in every now and then you kind of see and then they shut the curtain on you like, no, you can't see. Wait.
Yeah.
It's kind of then like giving me a pathway to the NBL and like looking in on that where they kind of like, yeah, come on in. I don't care. Just watch it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, watching like Bristol Hurricanes and obviously my Plymouth Raiders, where the league this season is actually looking very much more competitive than it was last season. Very excited for that. Fingers crossed we have a chance because I mean, there's been discussion that this is going to be a really difficult one because of the clubs that are coming in. Um, Also excited, obviously, to see new players. I love new signings coming in. Cheshire being bold and announcing all of them at once. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Um, yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm also just kind of excited to see what the kind of brand exposure is, what the brand's going to be kind of like,
Yeah.
who the sponsors are going to be, who are they trying to bring in.
So, in short, you're excited for everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could ramble on and on.
But Ben, obviously you're excited to be back at Knicks. I have one other thing to ask you a second as well. Go on, what thing are you excited for the most?
I mean, Eli's touched on a lot of it, to be fair. I think the whole thing, just having basketball back is exciting. I said it before, the openness that the league is now going to have, or I believe it's going to have. Um, Also, and there's still the element of uncertainty on how things are going to work. And I think that now that we know that there's a league and it's safe and we know how the structure is going to look, um, even though there's still a bit of uncertainty, you know that things are going to be okay. So it's exciting. Um, So no, I am just thrilled to have it back. I've waited long enough. We all have. I want to be back, losing my voice, tearing that little thing at the bottom of my tongue. Um, I'm still trying to recover from.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Honestly, mate. What-
I'm so
The,
mad.
the Knicks photographer caught me screaming during that point with his camera and got a picture of it. I'll have to try and find it. And
Okay.
but yeah,
Um,
no, we're
so
coming back.
you're excited for the Knicks and to suffer personal injury.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 trophies up for grabs, and Knicks have got the name written on all 4.
So
Just saying.
I'm excited for the 89ers. I'm excited to see what this new club that's got a fresh life in it, new owners. I'm really excited to kind of from afar kind of go on that journey as like an on loan fan, I suppose, temporary fan. Um, I'm also excited for the fact that I said before the NBL D1 playoffs, I managed to talk myself into every one of the NBL teams in the playoffs winning it. I'm now really excited to be sat here in 12 at the end of the season, saying that for D1 again, probably, and for the Super League and
Yeah.
the WBBL, which I didn't think we would be saying this time last season. So I'm really excited for just the excitement and hopefully new fans come in. There is also one other thing that I think we are all, me and Eli are excited for, which is obviously Raiders. There is one thing that people should be excited for, and if you're not excited for this, you need to find a way to be excited because GB men's and women's Paralympics basketball starts. So this week,
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday. Let's go.
Ben has been working his absolute behind off, covering everything to do with wheelchair basketball in the last 12 months. Um, we're all really excited for it for the Paralympics. Um, Muggins here did say on a previous podcast, and I will do this. If GB men and women medal, I will go to the Exeter Otters game in an outfit that Jack gives me. Shout out to the Exeter Otters as well, and shout out to Jack. Congratulations, he's been nominated for an award down here in Devon, fully deserved. If you're in Devon, go watch the Otters. I should definitely be going this season. So please do like and subscribe, and do follow us because we are going to be covering the men's and women's
Yeah.
GB wheelchair basketball
On that note,
at length.
sorry. Yeah, no, we will be.
I say we will be. Me and Eli will kind of be supporting Ben, but Ben is doing like working his behind off here. Like no jokes. Like this is all to Ben. So me and Eli are supporting him, but this is all Ben's blood, sweat, and tears. So if you are liking, you see his posts, show him some love because he's doing it because he loves the sport.
I've got to give a massive shout out, and you'll see this guy coming up a lot over the next couple of weeks. Terry Bywater, absolute legend, arguably one of my favorite men's GB wheelchair basketball players. Um, 7-time Paralympian. This time it'll be his 7th games. Was announced as the male flag bearer for the opening ceremony tomorrow. So massive love to Terry, who also did retweet the post I put on our mostly Ballin socials.
Who
And we
did
didn't
that?
even follow him at the time, so we now
That
follow
guy,
him.
that guy who's currently on the left of my screen did that. That guy there. He might
I
be
don't know which
wherever he is.
way he's.
Ben did that. Me and Eli had nothing to do with that. So Ben
I,
is.
I got screenshot proof of it as well.
I don't know
So,
which way he is on the recording,
no.
so he's either way.
Well, I know. Me and Eli do rinse Ben continuously, and I do rinse Ben continuously. But I am like, I would like so happy for him because the delight in his, you could see when he was sending us these messages. So if you don't know anything about wheelchair basketball, like I don't, I know a little bit. Stay tuned because we're all going to go on a journey here, and hopefully we see GB come home with some medals to crown off a season where we saw the first women's team, the first team in the UK win a European trophy.
Yeah.
I think a little bit of joy kind of would order us some good. So support GB. It doesn't matter if you don't know the rules. Doesn't matter if you don't really know what's going on. The games are on Channel 4. Show them some
Yes.
love because
Yeah.
these guys are so good.
Shout out to Joy Hazelden as well.
Shout out to Joy.
Yeah.
From Bama. She does. She went to Alabama.
She did. Yeah. She's
Really?
been on the pod as well.
She has been on the podcast. We asked her about snacks. She's a Paralympian, and me and Ben just went, "Do you like biscuits?" That interview is somewhere. The interview is somewhere still out there on YouTube. Go find it.
Professionalism.
Yeah, like we were like, yeah. So, you play in the Paralympics and stuff. So, what's your favorite biscuit?
These are questions that have got to be asked, no matter who they are.
You've played
Yeah.
against some top flight, Paralympians. Do you like digestives, or are you a rich tea person?
Yeah. Sweet or salty popcorn. If you say salted, we're ending the interview here, and you're never coming back on again.
If you forgot what the podcast was like, I mean, that's pretty much it summed up in like 2 sentences. So yeah, stick along.
Like we're under a different name, but this is still the same vibe. Like this could literally go anywhere now. Like we are unleashed.
The season begins now because we've started now.
The lunatics have taken over the asylum.
Yeah.
I
Please
think
don't
on
kick us out.
on that note, I think it's traditional now to give a shout out. So just shout out to British Hoops. It's good to be back. Stick in.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bumpy ride over this season. Good luck to GB men and women. And Ben.
Oh, my hand wasn't for a shout out. I had something to add, but thanks for the shout out. I
Go on,
appreciate it.
What have you got to add?
September 27th, trophy. That's when it all starts. Because yeah,
The league starts on December 27th, did you say?
September 27th is the trophy.
Oh,
So
right. Gosh, don't listen to me.
Egg is still frozen. Let's enjoy the quiet. Oh, he's moved. No, so the trophy starts us off. So we've got the trophy to look forward to, and then November 1st we get league action. So it's all a bit mixed up this season.
That's kind of what it was like in the COVID season. They did all like the cup and stuff first, and then we got the league like November time.
So we've got our trophy group stages in September, and then so the groups are going to work a little differently as well because it's going to be a 5 and a 4 group. But we'll cover that again. And the same with the cup that kicks off in March, I believe.
When I said to you, what's the format for all this stuff, and you said I need to find my phone, and then you didn't tell us.
We went on a rant as we usually do.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop you now. Shout out British basketball, we love you guys. Shout out to GB men's and women's wheelchair. Shout out to the 89ers. You're only a fan in Devon, I'd imagine. Shout out to Plymouth Raiders. Shout out to the Knicks. Shout out to Quincy Rideau. We're also going to be covering Bulgarian basketball as well because we've all now got a Bulgarian team. We think it's Bulgaria. Ben did have to go on a map and do some bits there. And shout out to Digestive Biscuits. We'll see you all soon when we shall try and work out what the format is of British basketball. And I'm going to stop recording now so Ben can't say anything else.
Yeah.